Welcome back to the creepy horror, brave souls. Tonight, I'm bringing you 3 terrifying true horror stories. Real events that happen to real people. These aren't just stories to scare you. Some of them will stay with you long after the lights go out. Before we begin, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is. I love seeing how far my stories travel. So hold on tight and prepare yourself. The darkness is closer than you think. Story 1. The Abandoned Quarry. I was 14 the summer my parents let me bike to the trails on the outskirts of town. It was one of those freedoms you earn by proving you won't do anything stupid, even though stupid was exactly what we planned. My friend Derek and I had heard about an old limestone quarry hidden beyond the tree line, past where the maintained trails ended. Kids at school talked about it the way they talked about haunted houses, half truth, half dare. Someone's older brother had found rope swings there. Someone else said people used to swim before the water turned bad. We went on a Thursday in late July. The kind of day where heat made the asphalt soft and cicadas screamed from every tree. We rode past the trail markers, dumped our bikes in tall grass, and pushed through underbrush until the ground opened up. The quarry was bigger than I expected. A massive pit carved into pale stone, maybe 200 feet across, filled with water so still it looked painted. The surface was a dark green that didn't reflect the sky. Around the edges, graffiti covered the rocks in faded layers. Names, dates, crude drawings that had been there long enough to moss over. Derek found the rope swing first. It hung from a metal beam someone had bolted into the cliff face decades ago, probably when this place was still legal to visit. The rope was thick, weathered, but seemed solid when Derek yanked on it. "We're doing this, right?" he said, already pulling off his shirt. I hesitated. The water looked wrong. Too dark. Too still. But I wasn't about to be the one who backed out. Derek went first. He grabbed the rope, ran to the edge, and swung out over the water with a yell that echoed off the stone walls. At the peak of the arc, he let go and dropped. The splash was smaller than I expected. He surfaced quickly, treading water, grinning. "It's freezing," he shouted. "Come on." I grabbed the rope. It felt rougher than it looked, fibers poking into my palms. I didn't think. I just ran and jumped. The swing felt longer in the air than it looked from the ground. For a second, I was weightless, suspended above that dark surface. Then I let go. The cold hit me like a wall. Not refreshing summer cold, but deep cold, the kind that makes your chest seize. I kicked hard toward the surface, breaking through with a gasp. Derek was already swimming toward the far edge where the rocks sloped down into the water. I followed, my strokes choppy, my breath coming too fast. That's when I felt it. Something brushed against my leg. Not a plant or debris. Something smooth and solid that moved. I jerked away, kicking harder. My foot connected with something that didn't feel like stone. "Derek." My voice cracked. He turned, treading water. "What?" "Something's down there." "It's just rocks, man. Relax." But I knew it wasn't rocks. Rocks don't move. Rocks don't have texture like that. I swam faster, my arms burning, every stroke waiting for something to grab my ankle and pull me under. When I reached the edge, I hauled myself onto the stone so fast I scraped my knee open without noticing. Derek climbed out beside me, laughing at first. Then he saw my face. "You serious?" I nodded, breathing hard, staring at the water. The surface had already gone still again. Perfectly flat. Like nothing had disturbed it. "We should go," I said. Derek looked at the water, then back at me. For a second I thought he'd argue. Then he grabbed his shirt. We were halfway back to our bikes when we heard it. A splash. Loud and sudden, like something heavy had been dropped into the water. We both stopped. Looked back toward the quarry. Another splash. Then another. Rhythmic. Deliberate. "Probably just rocks falling," Derek said, but his voice was tight. We didn't run. We walked fast, pushing through branches that seemed thicker than before, until we reached our bikes and rode without stopping until we hit pavement. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt that brush against my leg. That smooth, wrong texture that moved with intention. I told myself it was a fish. An old tire. Debris. But I knew what I felt. 2 days later, Derek called me. His voice was different. Flat. "You see the news?" he asked. I hadn't. "They found someone. At the quarry." My stomach dropped. "What?" "A diver. He was down there looking for, I don't know, equipment or something. They said he got tangled in something underwater and drowned." I didn't say anything. "They're draining it," Derek continued. "The whole thing. They said the water's not safe. There's stuff down there. Old machinery. Cables. They found a car too. Been there for years." I thought about the rope swing. The graffiti. How many people had jumped into that water without knowing what was beneath them? When were we there? Derek asked quietly. Thursday. They found him Friday morning. Silence stretched between us. We were swimming right above him, I finally said. Derek didn't respond. You didn't have to. The quarry was drained over the next month. I didn't go back to watch, but Derek's older brother did. He told us what they found. 3 cars, a motorcycle, shopping carts, rusted playground equipment, and cables. Thick industrial cables that had been left behind when the quarry shut down, snaking through the water in loops and tangles. The diver had gotten caught in one. His equipment malfunctioned. He couldn't surface. They estimated he'd been down there 2 days when they found him. The same 2 days Derek and I were swimming above him. I remember Derek's brother saying something else, almost as an afterthought. He said when they drained the water low enough to see the bottom, they found marks on the rocks. Scratches. Like something, or someone, had been dragged. Old marks, he said. Could have been from equipment removal decades ago. But some of them looked fresh. I never went back to that quarry. They fenced it off completely, posted warnings, filled it partially with dirt. It's not a swimming hole anymore. It's not anything. But sometimes late at night I still feel it. That smooth, deliberate brush against my leg in water too dark to see through. And I wonder what I actually touched down there. What touched me back? Story 2, the house on Millbrook Drive. When I was 23, I answered an ad for a house-sitting job. The pay was generous, $300 a week to stay in a house while the owners traveled for a month. The only requirements were keeping the plants watered, collecting mail, and maintaining a presence. That last phrase should have been a warning. The house was on Millbrook Drive, in one of those older neighborhoods where the trees grew tall enough to block streetlights. Big houses with wide lawns and long driveways. The kind of place where people minded their own business. The owners, an older couple named the Hendersons, met me at the door on a Sunday afternoon. Mrs. Henderson walked me through the house, pointing out light switches, thermostats, and where they kept spare batteries. Mr. Henderson stood in the doorway the whole time, hands in his pockets, not saying much. The house was immaculate. Hardwood floors that creaked pleasantly. Crown molding. A sunroom with plants that needed watering twice a week. 3 bedrooms upstairs, though I was told to use the guest room on the main floor. We prefer the upstairs stays undisturbed, Mrs. Henderson said. The doors should remain closed. I nodded. It was their house. Their rules. Before they left, Mr. Henderson finally spoke. If you hear anything at night, it's just the house settling. Old places make noise. Mrs. Henderson shot him a look I couldn't interpret. Then she smiled at me. You'll be fine. We'll see you in 4 weeks. They left in a taxi to the airport. I watched from the window until the car disappeared, then turned back to the empty house. It felt different immediately. Larger. Quieter. I spent the first day exploring, watering plants, making myself comfortable. By evening, I'd settled into the guest room with my laptop, streaming a show to fill the silence. Around 11, I heard the first sound. Footsteps. Upstairs. Slow, deliberate footsteps crossing from one side of the house to the other. I paused the show and listened. The footsteps stopped. I waited. Nothing. Old houses settle, I reminded myself. Pipes expand. Wood shifts. I went back to my show. At midnight, the footsteps started again. This time, they were in the hallway directly above me. Back and forth. Back and forth. The same path over and over. I turned off the laptop and lay in the dark, listening. After 20 minutes, the footsteps stopped. I didn't sleep well that night. The next morning, I went upstairs. I told myself I was just curious. The 3-bedroom doors were closed, exactly as Mrs. Henderson had requested. I tried the first handle. Locked. The second. Locked. The third. Also locked. I stood in the hallway looking at those 3 doors, and felt a creeping unease I couldn't explain. That night, the footsteps started earlier. 10 o'clock. Same pattern. Slow, methodical pacing above my room. On the 3rd night, I decided to confront it. When the footsteps started, I grabbed a flashlight and went upstairs. The hallway was dark. The 3 doors were closed. I stood at the top of the stairs and listened. The footsteps were coming from behind the middle door. I approached slowly. Put my ear against the wood. The footsteps stopped. Silence. Then from inside the room, a voice. Low and muffled, like someone speaking through fabric. Go away. I stepped back. My hand was shaking. This is private, the voice continued. You shouldn't be up here. I went back downstairs. Locked myself in the guest room. Tried to convince myself I'd imagined it, but I knew I hadn't. The 4th night, I called Mrs. Henderson. It went straight to voicemail. I left a message asking about the upstairs rooms, trying to sound casual. She never called back. The footsteps continued every night. Always the same pattern. Always stopping when I approached the door. On the 7th night, I heard something different. Not footsteps. Dragging. Like something heavy being pulled across the floor. I stayed in my room, lights on, until morning. By the 2nd week, I'd stopped going upstairs entirely. I avoided looking at the staircase. I kept the guest room door locked at all times. The sounds escalated. Footsteps became pounding. Dragging became scraping. One night, I heard what sounded like furniture being moved. Heavy impacts against the floor above me that made the ceiling light sway. I called the Hendersons again. No answer. I considered leaving, breaking the contract, but I needed the money. And part of me, the stubborn, rational part, refused to be driven out by sounds. On the 16th night, I woke to silence. No footsteps. No dragging. No sounds at all. I lay in the dark, listening to nothing. Then I heard the stairs creak. Someone was coming down. Slowly. One step at a time. I held my breath. The footsteps reached the bottom of the stairs. Paused. Then they moved down the hallway. Toward my room. I watched the gap under the door. Waiting for a shadow. For the handle to turn. The footsteps stopped outside my door. I could hear breathing. Slow and steady. Just on the other side of the wood. I didn't move. Didn't make a sound. After what felt like hours, the footsteps retreated. Back down the hallway. Up the stairs. A door closed upstairs. Silence. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning I packed my things. I left a note saying there was a family emergency. I didn't wait for a response. As I was loading my car, a neighbor approached. An older woman walking a small dog. "Leaving already?" she asked. "Yeah. Family thing." She looked at the house, then back at me. "How long were you there?" "Just over 2 weeks." She nodded slowly. "That's longer than most." I stopped. "What do you mean?" "The Hendersons. They've had a lot of house sitters over the years. None of them stay the full month." "Why not?" She hesitated. "The house has a history. The previous owners, there was an incident. Upstairs. They sealed the rooms after." "What kind of incident?" She pulled her dog closer. "I shouldn't say. It's not my place. But those rooms upstairs, they're not just locked. They're sealed. For a reason." She walked away before I could ask more. I got in my car and left. I never went back. The Hendersons never contacted me about breaking the contract. I never asked for my pay. 6 months later, I saw the house listed for sale. I looked up the property records online. The previous owners had died in the house. Upstairs. A murder-suicide. The husband killed his wife in the middle bedroom, then himself. The Hendersons had bought the house at auction, renovated the downstairs, but left the upstairs untouched. Still, according to reviews from previous house sitters I found on a local forum, everyone reported the same things. Footsteps. Voices. The feeling of being watched. Most left within 2 weeks. I lasted 16 days. I still think about that voice behind the door. "Go away. This is private." And I think about the footsteps that came down the stairs that last night. The breathing outside my door. I don't know what was in that house. I don't know what the Hendersons knew or why they kept hiring people to stay there. But I know I'll never house sit again. And I know that some doors stay locked for reasons that have nothing to do with privacy. Story 3. The last bus home. I used to take the number 47 bus home from my evening shift at a call center. The route ran from downtown through increasingly empty neighborhoods until it reached the suburbs where I lived. By the time the bus got to my stop, I was usually one of maybe 3 passengers left. This was back in 2019 before I had a car. The bus was my only option, and the night shift paid better, so I learned to live with the 40-minute ride through dim streets. Most nights were uneventful. I'd sit near the back, headphones in, watching the city thin out as we moved away from the center. The same stops. The same driver. The same handful of late-night workers making the same commute. But one Thursday in October, something changed. I got on the bus at 11:47 p.m., same as always. The driver was different, a substitute, I guessed. Older guy, didn't make eye contact when I tapped my card. The bus was emptier than usual. Just me and a woman in a business suit sitting near the front. We pulled away from the stop and headed into the route. The first 10 minutes were normal. The bus stopped where it always stopped, let off the woman in the suit, picked up no one. Then we passed my usual landmark, a 24-hour laundromat that I used as a mental checkpoint for halfway home. Except when I looked, the laundromat was dark. Closed. which didn't make sense because it was never closed. I pulled out my headphones and checked my phone. 12:03 a.m. Right on schedule. But something felt wrong. The bus turned left instead of right at the next intersection. I sat up straighter. That wasn't the route. We should have turned right. I pressed the call button to signal a stop. The driver didn't respond. The sign above him still read the correct route number, 47, but we were definitely going the wrong way. I stood and walked to the front of the bus. "Excuse me? You missed the turn." The driver didn't look at me, didn't acknowledge me at all. Just kept driving, hands on the wheel, eyes forward. "Hey, you're going the wrong way." Nothing. I looked around the bus. I was the only passenger now. The streets outside were unfamiliar. No street lights. No buildings I recognized. Just dark roads and empty lots. I pulled out my phone to check the map. No signal. The GPS couldn't find my location. My heart started beating faster. I pressed the emergency stop button. The bus didn't slow. I went back to the driver. "Stop the bus. I need to get off." He didn't move. Didn't blink. Just drove. I looked at his face more closely. His eyes were open but unfocused, staring straight ahead at the road. His hands gripped the wheel in exactly the same position, not adjusting, not responding to turns. The bus kept moving. Faster now. I tried the doors. Locked. I tried the windows. Still. I was trapped. The bus turned onto a road I'd never seen. No lights. No signs. Just darkness pressing against the windows. I sat down trying to stay calm. Trying to think. The bus had to stop eventually. It had to run out of fuel. It had to reach the end of the route. But the route had already ended. We were somewhere else now. The bus drove for what felt like hours. No stops. No turns. Just forward movement through darkness. I checked my phone obsessively. 12:17. 12:23. 12:41. Time was passing but nothing changed outside the windows. Then at exactly 1 a.m. the bus stopped. Not at a bus stop. Just in the middle of the road. The engine went quiet. The lights inside flickered once, then stabilized. I waited. The driver didn't move. His hands stayed on the wheel, his eyes staring forward. I approached the door. It hissed open. I stepped off the bus into complete darkness. No street lights. No buildings. Just road and darkness. The bus doors closed behind me. The engine started again. The bus pulled away, disappearing into the night. I stood alone on the road, phone in hand, no signal, no idea where I was. I started walking. I didn't know which direction. I just walked. After what felt like an hour, I saw lights ahead. A gas station. Familiar. Too familiar. It was the gas station 2 blocks from my apartment. I was home. Or near it. I checked my phone. 1:47 a.m. 2 hours had passed since I got on the bus. I walked to my apartment in a daze, unlocked my door and sat on my couch trying to process what had happened. The next morning, I checked the bus company's website. The number 47 route ran until midnight. After that, no service until 5 a.m. I'd gotten on the bus at 11:47. I should have been home by 12:30 at the latest. But I'd gotten off the bus at 1:47. 2 hours later. I reported the incident to the bus company. They had no record of a bus running that route after midnight. No record of a substitute driver that night. No explanation for how I'd ended up where I did. I stopped taking the bus after that. Started carpooling with a coworker. Eventually bought a car. But sometimes late at night, I drive past the bus stop where I used to catch the 47. And sometimes I see it there. An empty bus. Number 47 on the sign. Doors closed. Lights on. Just sitting there. Waiting. I never stop to look inside. I never check if the driver is there. I just drive past and try not to think about where that bus goes after midnight, or who's still riding it. Thank you for watching, brave souls. These stories are real experiences from real people who lived through moments they can't fully explain. Moments that changed how they see the world. Do you have a story like this? Share it in the comments. I read every one. Until next time, stay safe. Keep your lights on. And remember, the darkness is always closer than you think. This is the Creepy Horror signing off.